I never thought I was the kind of woman who would go through her husband's phone. Not once. Not in 26 years. I was raised to trust. My mother always said, a marriage without trust is just two strangers living under the same roof. I believed that. I lived by that. Even when small things didn't add up. Even when he came home quieter than usual. Even when he stopped asking how my day was. I told myself it was age. It was stress. It was just life settling in. But that Tuesday afternoon changed everything. It was an ordinary day. The kind of day you never remember until something happens in it. I had made chicken soup, his favorite, and it was simmering on the stove. The whole house smelled warm, comfortable, safe. He had left his phone on the kitchen counter when he went to take a shower. It buzzed once, then again. I didn't mean to look. I really didn't. But it was right there, and something, I don't know what, something made me glance. The name on the screen was just an initial. R. No last name, just R. My heart didn't race, not yet. I picked up the phone slowly, the way you pick up something fragile. The messages were right there, unlocked, because he trusted me enough to not lock his phone. Or maybe he had simply forgotten. I read the first message, then the second. Then I sat down on the kitchen floor. Not because my legs gave out, but because something inside me, something very quiet and very deep, simply could not stand anymore. I want you to understand something before I go further. My husband Gerald was not a bad man. He was never cruel. He never raised his voice at me. He worked hard his whole life, 40 years at the same company. He coached our son's Little League team for 6 seasons. He always remembered to change the batteries in the smoke detectors. He was, by every measure, a good man. But good men can still break your heart, and sometimes the quiet ones break it the loudest. The messages between Gerald and R went back 4 months. 4 months. While I was here, in this house, making soup and folding his shirts and watching the evening news beside him on the couch. While I was being his wife, completely and without question. They weren't messages full of passion or fire. That almost would have been easier to understand. They were soft, gentle, the way two people talk when they feel safe with each other. He asked about her day. He remembered small things she had mentioned weeks before. He said things like, "I've been thinking about what you said," and "You always know how to make me feel understood." That last part, that was the one that stayed. You always know how to make me feel understood. I sat there on that kitchen floor and I thought, when was the last time Gerald felt understood by me? When was the last time I had asked? When was the last time either of us had really talked, not just exchanged information about groceries and grandchildren and doctor appointments? I don't know how long I sat there. The soup was still simmering. Steam was rising from the pot. Life was just continuing, the way it cruelly does, even when yours is quietly falling apart. When Gerald came downstairs, he was drying his hair with a towel. He was wearing the blue robe I had given him for Christmas 3 years ago. He looked exactly like the man I had loved for more than half my life. He saw me on the floor. He saw his phone in my hands. He didn't say anything for a long moment, and I didn't either. We just looked at each other across that kitchen, across 26 years, across all the dinners and arguments and holidays and hospital waiting rooms and whispered prayers, across everything we had built together. Finally, I said, very quietly, "Who is R?" He sat down too, right there on the kitchen floor, across from me. And that broke something open in me, that he didn't try to run, didn't get angry, didn't make excuses. He just sat down, like he was too tired to stand either. "She's someone I met at the grief support group," he said, "after my brother died." I had forgotten. Gerald's brother Raymond had passed away 14 months ago. Gerald had cried once, the night we got the call. After that, he had gone silent. I had tried to reach him, I had, but he kept saying he was fine. He kept saying he just needed time. I hadn't pushed. I had respected his silence. Maybe that was my mistake. "You never told me you were still going to the group," I said. "You never asked," he said. Those 3 words. They didn't feel like an accusation. They felt like a mirror. Maybe you have felt this too. That strange moment when you realize a marriage can get lonely from the inside. Not because love left, but because 2 people slowly stopped turning toward each other, and neither one noticed until it was almost too late. I put the phone down on the floor between us. The soup was starting to boil over. I could hear it bubbling. I didn't get up to turn it down. Gerald reached out and put his hand over mine. I didn't pull away, but I didn't squeeze back either. Not yet. I just sat there in my warm kitchen that smelled like chicken soup, holding 26 years in my chest, like something heavy and precious and suddenly very fragile. And I thought, what do we do now? We didn't talk that night, not really. I got up from the floor eventually and turned the stove down. I served the soup. We sat at the same table we had sat at for 26 years. We used the same bowls, the same spoons. Gerald said it tasted good. I said thank you. That was all. 2 people, 1 table. A silence so thick you could almost touch it. After dinner, he washed the dishes. He always washed the dishes. That had been our arrangement since the very beginning of our marriage. I cook, he cleans. Small agreements like that are what hold a life together. Little routines you stop noticing until one day you realize they are the only things still connecting you. I sat in the living room and pretended to watch television. I couldn't tell you what was on. I couldn't tell you anything about that hour, except the way the lamplight felt too bright, and the couch felt too soft, and my own hands in my lap felt unfamiliar to me. He came and sat beside me when he was done. Not too close, not too far, just beside me. The way he had for 26 years. I thought about the early days that night when I finally went to bed. Gerald and I met when I was 23 years old. He was 27. He had kind eyes and terrible taste in shoes, and he made me laugh on our first date by accidentally spilling his coffee and then trying to pretend it hadn't happened. I knew by the 3rd date that I would marry him, not because he was perfect, but because he felt like home. We were married on a Saturday in October. The leaves were orange and red, and the church smelled like candles and chrysanthemums. My mother cried. Gerald's mother cried. Gerald himself got a little teary during the vows, and then straightened up and cleared his throat like he hadn't. I loved him so much that day I didn't know what to do with it. And I loved him still, even sitting in that dark bedroom, staring at the ceiling while he slept beside me. Even with his phone and its quiet messages sitting between us like something unspoken. Love doesn't leave quickly. That's what nobody tells you. It stays long after it should. It wraps itself around the familiar and refuses to let go. That night I cried without making a sound, the way women learn to cry after many years, quietly, privately, so as not to disturb anyone. 3 days passed before we spoke about it again. 3 days of soup bowls and dishwashing and side-by-side silence. 3 days of him looking at me like he wanted to say something, and me looking away before he could. On the 4th day, I was in the garden. I like to garden in the mornings. It has always calmed me. The smell of the soil, the simple honesty of plants that just need water and light to survive. I was pruning the rose bushes when Gerald came outside with 2 cups of coffee. He handed me one without a word. I took it. We stood there in the garden together for a while, not talking, just holding our cups. The morning was cool. The sky was very blue. Then he said, "I want to explain, if you'll let me." I kept my eyes on the roses. "I'm listening," I said. He told me about the grief group, how he had started going 2 weeks after Raymond died, without telling me because he didn't want me to worry. How he had felt embarrassed. Gerald was always a private man, a proud man, the kind who believed that grief was something you handled quietly and alone. He told me that the first 3 sessions he barely spoke at all. He just sat in the circle and listened to other people carry their losses out loud, and felt, for the first time, that his own grief was real, was allowed. R was a woman named Ruth, 61 years old. She had lost her husband 2 years before. She understood loss the way only someone who has sat inside it can. She didn't fix anything, Gerald said. She just listened. She never told me I should be over it by now. She never changed the subject. He looked at me then, and I understood what he wasn't saying, because sometimes I had changed the subject. Not to be cruel, but because watching Gerald suffer made me suffer, and I didn't always know how to just sit inside pain with another person without trying to solve it. "I should have told you I was going," he said. "I should have told you I was struggling. I kept thinking I was protecting you." "You were keeping me out," I said. "Yes," he said quietly, "I was." That honesty cost him something. I could see it. His jaw was tight. His hands around his coffee cup were tense. Gerald was not a man who found it easy to admit weakness. Not to anyone, not even to me. And I realized something standing there in that garden. I had stopped making it safe for him to be weak with me. Not intentionally, not cruelly, but slowly over years, I had become the one who managed things, who held things together, who stayed steady. And he had learned to protect me from his falling apart. We had both made the same mistake without knowing it. We had both slowly stopped letting the other one in. Maybe you have felt this too, that quiet drift that happens in long marriages, where you love someone completely and still somehow grow just slightly out of reach of each other, where two people stop showing their soft places because they've both forgotten that it's safe to do so. I didn't forgive everything that morning. I want to be honest about that. Trust is not a light switch. You cannot simply turn it back on. But I handed him back his coffee cup to rinse when we were done, and I said, "I think we need to talk. Really talk. Not just about this, about all of it." He nodded. His eyes were tired and relieved at the same time. "I'd like that," he said. We went back inside together. The rose bushes still needed pruning, but they could wait. We started talking that evening, not after dinner, not with the television on in the background, not the way we usually talked. Brief, practical, surface-level conversations that got the job done but never went very deep. This time I turned the television off. I made tea instead of coffee because tea always felt slower to me, more patient. I put 2 cups on the coffee table and I sat facing him on the couch. Not beside him the way I usually did, but facing him, so there was nowhere else to look. He looked nervous. Gerald, the man who had managed an entire department for 20 years, who had delivered eulogies and coached championship Little League teams, and never once appeared rattled in front of anyone. He looked nervous sitting across from his own wife on his own couch. That told me everything about how long it had been since we had truly faced each other. "Start wherever you need to," I said. And he did. He talked for a long time, about Raymond first, his big brother, the one who had taught him to ride a bike and taken the blame when Gerald broke a neighbor's window at 9 years old. The one who called every Sunday without fail for 50 years, until the Sunday he didn't call anymore because he was gone. Gerald talked about standing at the grave and feeling completely hollow. like someone had reached inside him and removed something he hadn't even known was load-bearing until it wasn't there. He talked about coming home that day and watching me move around the kitchen, practical and caring and steady, making sure there was food, making sure the family was taken care of, making sure everything kept running. And how he had loved me for it, and also felt, in some small and shameful way, completely alone inside it. "You were so strong," he said. "You're always so strong. I didn't know how to fall apart in front of that." I wrapped my hands around my teacup. "I didn't know you needed to," I said honestly. "I didn't tell you." "No," I said, "you didn't." We sat with that for a moment, the truth of it, the sadness of it. Two people who loved each other, failing each other quietly, without any intention of harm. Then it was my turn, because Gerald was not the only one who had been keeping things inside. I had simply been keeping different things. I told him that I had felt invisible for years. Not unloved, I always knew he loved me, but invisible in a quieter way. The way a piece of furniture becomes invisible, present, relied upon, but not truly seen. I told him that I had stopped telling him when I was sad because it felt like too much trouble, because he had enough on his mind, because I was the one who kept things steady, and I had decided somewhere along the way, without anyone asking me to, that my job was to hold everything together, not to need anything myself. I told them about the night 2 years ago when I had received news that my oldest friend Carol had been diagnosed with cancer. I had come home and made dinner and sat at the table, and Gerald had talked about a problem at work, and I had listened and nodded, and when he asked how my day was, I said fine, just fine, because I didn't know how to suddenly say, "I am terrified, I am grieving someone who is still alive, I need you to hold me tonight." I had forgotten how to ask for that, or maybe I had never properly learned. Gerald was quiet for a long time after I told him that. "I didn't know about Carol," he said finally. "Not that night. You never told me how scared you were." "No," I said, "I didn't." He reached over and put his hand on my knee. "I'm sorry I wasn't someone you felt you could tell," he said. And those words, said that quietly, broke something open in me that I hadn't even realized was sealed. I cried then, properly. Not the silent nighttime crying I had done for years. Real crying, in front of him, messy and without any dignity at all. And Gerald didn't try to fix it. He didn't offer solutions or change the subject or pat my back in that careful way that means a person doesn't quite know what to do. He just moved closer and put his arm around me and let me cry against his shoulder, the way I hadn't done since we were young. It felt unfamiliar. It also felt like the truest thing that had happened between us in years. We talked until midnight, about things we hadn't said in years, about small hurts we had never mentioned, about the way our children growing up and leaving had shifted something between us that we had never properly addressed, about how retirement had been harder than either of us expected, all that time together, suddenly, without the structure that had organized our love for decades, about how strange it was to realize that two people could share one life for 26 years and still have entire rooms inside themselves that the other had never been invited into. Maybe you have felt this too, that discovery that the person beside you is still, after all this time, not entirely known to you, and that this is not a failure. It is simply the truth of how vast a person is, how long it actually takes to know someone, how that knowing never really ends if you keep showing up for it. At midnight, I made more tea. When I came back, Gerald was looking at an old photograph that sat on the bookshelf. Our wedding photo. 26 years old, both of us. Orange leaves outside the church windows, his terrible shoes, my impossible veil. We were so young, he said. We had no idea, I agreed. He set the photo down gently. Do you think we can come back from this? He asked. Not desperately, just honestly. The way a man asks a question he genuinely does not know the answer to. I looked at him for a long moment, at the blue robe, the tired eyes, the hands that had held mine at an altar in October and hadn't let go for 26 years, even when the grip had grown loose. I think, I said slowly, that we never fully left. I think we just stopped finding each other for a while. He nodded. Outside the window, the neighborhood was completely dark and quiet. Inside, something was beginning again, quietly, carefully, the way things begin when they are fragile and worth protecting. That night was not the end of our trouble. I want to be honest about that, because real life does not wrap itself up neatly after one long conversation over tea. Real life is slower than that, messier, more patient, and more demanding. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of our marriage, not because of anger. Anger I could have understood. Anger has a shape, it moves, it makes noise. What we were navigating was quieter and more complicated than anger. It was the slow, careful work of two people trying to rebuild something they hadn't even realized was crumbling until they were already standing in the rubble. Gerald stopped messaging Ruth. He told me without me asking. He said it simply, one morning over breakfast. I stopped going to the group. I stopped the messages. He paused. It wasn't right. What I should have been doing, I should have been coming to you. I appreciated him saying it, but I also said something that surprised us both. I don't think you need to stop the group, I said. Grief support is good. Talking to someone who understands loss is good. I looked at him steadily. What needed to stop was the secrecy, not the healing. He looked at me for a long moment. When did you get so wise? He said quietly. I've had 26 years of practice, I said. We started seeing a marriage counselor in March. I never thought I would be a woman who sat in a counselor's office. I was from a generation that handled things privately. You kept your troubles inside the house. You worked things out between yourselves, or you simply endured. That was what you did. But I was 71 years old, and I had learned enough by then to know that pride is a very expensive thing to hold on to. It costs you more than it protects you. Her name was Dr. Ellison. She was a calm, sensible woman with reading glasses on a beaded chain and a very small box of tissues on the table beside the couch. She never told us what to feel. She only asked questions, good ones, the kind that opened doors you had forgotten were there. In our third session, she asked us each to describe the moment we had felt most loved by the other person. Gerald went first. He described a night 20 years ago when he had lost a major account at work. He had come home devastated, certain he would be let go, carrying the weight of it silently through dinner. And after the children were in bed, I had sat beside him and said, without him telling me anything, "Something is wrong. Talk to me." He said that moment, that simple sentence, had made him feel more loved than almost anything else in our marriage. That I had seen him even when he was trying not to be seen. I had completely forgotten that night. He had carried it for 20 years. Then it was my turn. I thought for a long time, and the moment I chose surprised even me. It was not our wedding, not the birth of our children, not any of the grand, expected moments. It was a Tuesday evening, different Tuesday than the one that had broken my heart. This one was perhaps 15 years ago. I had been very ill with a bad flu. Fever, chills, completely miserable. Gerald had put the children to bed himself, cleaned the kitchen, and then come into the bedroom with a bowl of soup and sat on the edge of the bed and fed it to me, spoonful by spoonful, like I was something precious and worth the trouble. He hadn't said anything particularly meaningful. He hadn't made any grand declarations. He had just stayed. That was what I had always loved most about Gerald. Not the words, the staying. When I told him this in Dr. Ellison's office, his eyes went bright in a way that made him look very young for a moment. Like the 27-year-old with the kind eyes and the terrible shoes who had spilled his coffee and pretended he hadn't. "I remember that night," he said softly. "So do I said. "Ask the question you've been avoiding. Say the thing you've been swallowing. Turn toward the person beside you. Really turn, fully, the way you did when everything was still new, and let yourself be seen. It is not too late. It is almost never too late." Gerald is in the garden right now as I write this. He is sitting in the garden chair with his Sunday coffee, watching the roses. He doesn't know I can see him from this window. He looks peaceful. A little older than the man I married, a little softer around the edges, more familiar to me now than he has been in years. In a little while, I will make 2 cups of tea and bring them outside. We will sit together in the morning quiet and watch the garden and not say very much because we won't need to. Some things, after all this time, do not need words anymore. They just need you to show up and stay. Thank you for listening to my story today. If it touched something in your heart, if it reminded you of your own life, your own love, your own quiet moments of distance and return, then it was worth every word. Take care of the ones beside you, and take care of yourself.